Inner child, inner child, and inner child. This has been a word along the streets of social media, therapy rooms, and any other books that you've had to read about healing. But the question is, what is this inner child? How does it show up? How do I identify my inner child? And when do I know that my inner child is showing up? Once again, welcome to Healing the Unscripted Way with myself, Dorothy Omolo. If you have not watched our last episodes, please do not hesitate. Now, inner child. The first question I would ask is, what is this one thing that sometimes you found yourself in the midst or you found yourself doing, and then it reminded you, it struck a nerve, it reminded you of something that has ever happened before? One time, a while back, I was seated with one of my friends, my clients. And at this point of time, she was going through a rough patch with the then husband. So I really started to want to understand why everything was happening the way it was happening. So it started, of course, from home. This girl, a middle child, of course, she was the third born in a family of 6. And of course, as we all know, especially in the African setup, where we house, our sibling, our relatives, and our cousins, and and it's just such a very big and beautiful family. So this beautiful lady was sexually assaulted by one of her cousins. Was she able to go tell her father? No. He was very harsh, and that would only lead to her being beaten up. Or she would be told that, maybe she started it, or they would be beaten, both of them. Something would happen. And so she knew, if I was to tell my father, then I would be beaten. She couldn't tell her mother. The same thing. Her mother was too harsh, and she would not talk about it. So one day, when she had just lost her pregnancy, and of course, as a woman, her body was trying to respond to the stress of losing the baby, and things were not just okay with her, both emotionally, mentally, and even physically. Her body was trying to adjust, because she had been carrying this pregnancy for 2 to 3 months. So you can attest with me that her body had already started assuming a lot of changes. So when this particular fetus is ejected out of the body, then it means that the body has to undergo through some changes. There's a mental state involved here, and then there's also spiritual aspect involved. So this lady was not doing okay, both emotionally, physically, and even spiritually. So she told the husband that, hey, babe, I can't have sex. I'm not okay. The husband insisted that we must. So the more the husband would insist, the more she realized that she was drawing out. the more the husband would come up in arms and angry at her and all, even before, the more she realized that she would cringe. These moments when her husband would be making, accusations and throwing tantrums and very mad at her and all this, reminded her of the days her father would be screaming at her mother. And as children, they would always run away. They would always run away. But you see, now as an adult, she can't run away. And so the body goes into the flight mode or freeze. So she's either just standing there and zoned out, meaning her body has already detected danger. These her husband's actions are perceived as danger by the internal nervous system. Then one day, her husband decided to go hard on her and decided to have sex with her against what she wanted. So the whole scenario of being raped at 6 years played out. So she said, "Stop." The husband thought it was fun. She screamed, "Stop it." The husband thought it was fun. She said, "I don't want it. Please don't. Please stop." And the husband did not stop. So when her body went into fight mode, she pushed him so hard. And the husband, all of a sudden, his eyes were wide open and he woke up and he was like, "What is wrong with you?" And she said, "I told you to stop. You're hurting me and you can't figure it out. I told you to stop." This girl, this lady, could not take it anymore. And of course, a number of things followed, a lot of things followed. This is just to remind you that in every human being, there is three persons. There's always the child, there's always the teenage, and then there's always the adult. This child part of us has never died and will never die. Remember, your experiences as a child can never, ever go away. What the best you can do is to incorporate the experiences and become part of you. Make peace with these experiences so that they become part of you. But the more you run away from them, the more they become chaotic. The more they become a source of pain, the more they become source of your disorientation. But the question is, do you constantly want to be disoriented? Let me give you a typical example. If your father was chaotic, if your father would come home, maybe not even screaming or not even fighting with your mother, but he was just home. But emotionally, he was not home. Then energetically, you acquired this, a child acquires this, especially energetically, a child acquires this, especially during those formative years. So once a child acquires this, then the child starts to perceive these within self, that I am not loved, I am not needed, I am not enough, I am not, I am not, I am not. Or for me to be loved, then I have to do 1, I have to do 2, I have to do 3, I have to do 4. Remember, these always happen in the unconscious brain of a child. Unfortunately, if these whole things are not taken into consideration early enough, then a child develops into an adult with these negative perceptions of self. And that's why today, as an adult, you walk into an office and you freeze just by the thought of you going to face your boss. You freeze. You do something, you do a report, and it's very beautiful, but you go present it, then you come back to yourself and start questioning yourself. Was it good? Did I do the right job? Did I? What if, and what if? Again, another concept, or another aspect of it is when you, as an adult today, people do you wrong, but you cannot talk. You cannot tell them no. You take the war inside. Somebody comes to you and asks you for something. You give them. It's not because you want to give them, but subconsciously now, back to the child now, you still want to feel you belong. You still want to feel loved. You still want to feel like you're fitting in. So you do things for people, but not knowing that at the end of the day, you start eating yourself from within, and it hurts. So the question is, how do I identify my inner child, and how do I heal my inner child? Sometimes it's very, very important to work with holistic therapists so that you're able to, the therapist is able to take you through hypnosis or time travel, so that you're able to meet the inner child and see the status of that inner child. But again, sometimes it's just you do some journal prompts, like, I remember when I was 3 years, I remember when I was 4 years, mom said this, and this is how it has affected me to date, and this is how I still feel about it. I remember one day when dad came home, this and this happened, and this is how I still feel about it. I remember when I went to school, this is what the teacher said, and this is how I still feel about it. By and large, remember, as a child, you had your life within the home setup, and you also had life within the societal setup. So, my dear beautiful soul, when you're starting to work on your inner child, remember, it is not only within the home setup, but also within the outside setup. And again, it is very important to remember that most of the times it's very, very important for you to speak out, because if you don't speak out, then that means that you will be taking the war inside while the outside world will be okay. Remember, when it is in the evening and you want to operate inside the house, then it means you have to switch on the light from inside and not depending on the lights outside, meaning the security lights. The security lights can be switched off by the security guard at any time. But the question is, how will you operate within your house if you were dependent on the security lights outside? So, my dear beautiful soul, please switch on the light from within, and that is activating and awakening your inner child. Thank you so much for healing the unscripted way. See you in our next episode.